When you are making or creating or doing anything, something out of your comfort zone, it honestly feels like I have like an existential crisis every week. Am I right? Is this you too? In my case, I'm freelancing and trying to grow my business and audience and YouTube and Twitter, and all of these feel like really big stretches, and some days I feel great and then very quickly I don't, and it is this like sine wave that is never ending. Interesting? No, it's not interesting. It's agonizing. It is just excruciating. And then on the other side, like when I'm high up on this curve, it feels great. Like I feel it's like revelation after revelation. I feel alignment and in sync, and like this is it. And I've got the clarity. That I think is going to weather the storm of like the next dip. And it totally just doesn't. It doesn't. And not to say that there isn't evolution, because there is. There always is. You have it. I have it. Whether we see it or we don't see it, it's there. But it's a game of inches, really, right? Like we kind of inch toward, and then, you know, the dips aren't as deep, and then the highs are higher, presumably, theoretically. It's just felt really, there's just so much wear and tear that comes with making, like entrepreneuring, creating, stretching in any capacity. The past couple of weeks, I decided to take an honest break. I'm very much someone who works when I say I'm not working, like I'm sure many of you feel this way. You work when you're outside of work, and work is like a run-on sentence in your day, in your week, in your life. And I decided over Christmas and New Year's to actually stop, because what I found was in this process, in this like sine wave that I was constantly churning up and down in, I wasn't paying attention. Like I was in reaction mode. You know what I mean? Like I would look at what someone else was doing and compare and mentally compete and like put them down to put myself up, and then put myself down because it looks like they were up and they had more likes and more this and more that. And I was constantly in this space of just responding to what I was seeing other people do in my space, on Twitter, on YouTube, etc. And it's exhausting, right? Like not only is it exhausting to be on this creator's curve, this up and down, but it's even more exhausting when you are not at the wheel. Like it's just you looking at something, and then that thing kind of sends you spiraling, and then something else sends you spiraling back up, and you're okay again. And I think a really important thing that I learned in taking this break is that, one, breaks are important. We know this. I refuse to acknowledge this the majority of the time, but it's true, and it is so real and so visceral. It's like my body has just this minuscule level of anxiety all the time when I don't slow down, when I don't have these breaks and these like moments of pause. Or when the breaks and the pause only come because my body just is like, it forces me to stop. That's what I wanted to do when I took this intentional break. I wanted to be the one deciding when I was taking a break. I didn't want to have to take a break because I was just like flying up by the seat of my pants. You know, like driving on the Autobahn speed, and I thought it was going to come out like this really nice metaphor, and it didn't. Yeah. So I took this break, and I hope you took a break too, or didn't, do what serves you. And man, it was nice. Like a lot of the guilt went away. I decided to actively stop looking at what everybody else was doing and I didn't turn off everyone else's notifications, but like I just didn't pay attention to them. And it helped me like reroute into what I want to do. Like when you kind of just shut off the noise of everyone else, there's just you, and you kind of have to see that you're sort of left with yourself. Because something that I noticed that is so interesting to me, and maybe interesting to you, is that as much as I compare and I read about other people's businesses and how they're doing and other people's podcasts and oh my God, it's so successful, and this person got that really great client and they grew their audience in like 5 minutes and with one single post, and all of the wins and the successes and the money coming in and the growth and the promotions. When I see all of that, as much as I feel the anxiety and this feeling of being like less than, I still don't, and I kind of berate myself for not moving ahead. Like I feel badly that, hey, how come I'm not doing those things? How come I'm not having that success? I feel like I'm not as capable. And I'm sure you know the spiral. It's human. It's not Hannah specific. But there's something that it's like I still won't do those things. I still won't just like follow. Even if I think someone else is doing it better than me, and I kind of pine for that level of success and judge me and myself for not having that level of success, I still don't do exactly what they've laid out as their path to success. And what that tells me is that this part of me that is stronger than I give it credit for is this like alignment with myself, like sticking to what I want. I'm so stubborn about sticking to what I want and how I want to grow and how I want to do things, and making sure I'm in alignment with that I just won't do something that I don't feel in alignment with until I feel in alignment with it. But the story I will have is that, oh, I'm kind of stagnating, and look, I said I was going to do that thing and I'm not doing it. I said I was going to make time to do X and I'm not. I said I was going to journal every day and now I'm not. And then I read this post and this girl's journaled like every day for a month and look at all the wins and like, but I still won't journal. And I think that what's more important is like, why are you standing still? Why am I not journaling? Like, why are you not doing the thing that you said you wanted to do, that you feel envious at other people's success at doing, that you love other people having success in that particular way that you claim to love, but you're not doing? And I think that there's just, I don't know the answer. I barely know the answer for myself. But there's something there. Like, when you can kind of feel something, some quality there that is more than like just about needing more motivation, or you need discipline and, push, or just keep going, and most people don't, and it's actually hard to be consistent. If I throw away all of those stories, like, you and me are capable people. We do things, we do excellent things, we strive and we quote unquote achieve, and we are driven and motivated, and we work hard, and sometimes we are lazy as hell. And it's glorious. And other times we will bust our ass doing something. So I don't think it's a person thing. I don't think it's a characteristic fault. I think it's a decision. It's like this secret decision that on some level, if I just kind of assume the cream is like, yeah, sure, I could always use more motivation and discipline if that's your thing, and, more focus and not comparing, like all of that holds true all the time. But still, it's not like I'm not, and you're not capable of doing something that you say you want to do. There's a reason you're not doing it. And if you strip away all the rules and the pushing, like, maybe you don't want to do that thing. Maybe I just find it so hard to hear what I actually want to do these days. I mean, what am I even saying these days? I think I'm hearing it. I think I hear myself more now than I used to. But it's hard. Like, the world is loud. The internet is loud. The blogs and the articles and the pods and the YouTube. I mean, it's so loud. But that doesn't mean we're quiet, I think. There's like a stubbornness that we have that we don't recognize. I think it's like we often just think it's a stubbornness in a bad way, you know? But like, what if you just let yourself be lazy? Like, let yourself be the laziest, to however you want to define lazy. Like, just don't do the thing. Don't do the thing until doing it is so organic and so natural that you just do it. I mean, this goes against like so many things I have read and like learned, and just, I mean, the whole like hustle porn culture, it goes against all of that, right? And that's not to say that you shouldn't work for something and that things will come easily and just like live your romantic dream. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm just saying that if you're stalling on something, or if you're doing what you would otherwise call stalling, maybe it's not stalling. Maybe there's some aspect of it that you just don't want to do, that you're just not ready to do. That if you are like me, and you have said you wanted to do something a bajillion times and then you haven't done the thing, or you do it a little bit and then you don't do it anymore, it's not you. Maybe it's the thing. I mean, maybe it's both. But just, I just like this idea of like opening it up a little more. You know, like I've had this conversation with my husband, with myself, with like anybody else in my life, and apologies because I probably annoyed you with this conversation, of making plans and getting really excited about these goals and then not following through on them, or following through in a different way, or like a fraction of a way, and feeling like, well, I said I was going to do that thing and look, here we are. I haven't done the thing. And it's like, I said the thing. Like, I said I was going to do the thing. So if I don't do the thing, like, I'm in charge, no? I'm the boss. God, I think it's just so interesting. Like, I don't want, like, I'm self-employed. I'm deciding. I'm leading. And like, yes. There are, you know, you want to have like, you want to, I mean, there's making money and having a good income and feeling like you're doing something meaningful, and you know, there are these like other things. I mean, obviously not, what I'm saying is this is complicated. Like, I don't think I'm overcomplicating it. I think it's just complicated and we just don't look at it. Like, there's so many things. There's so many reasons that you are not doing this thing that you said you were going to do. Whether that is like working out, or eating better, or creating or making or building something. You know? It's just, I just don't think it's that simple. And I think when we don't allow ourselves to procrastinate, when we have this like, and this is not my idea. There's someone on Twitter that I read talk about this, and I think he was referencing the Nassim Taleb book on anti-fragility, which I really want to read, but I also don't want to read because I just feel like I'm so impressionable. I'm ridiculously impressionable. If you come to me with a convincing argument of anything, and convincing, that my criteria for convincing is like you have a really confident tone and maybe some like modicum of success, I'm just like, I will throw away my whole reality and like jump on board your ship. And it's a dangerous quality, because well, no, here's the real. I'll jump on board your ship in ideas. Like, I will be all for it, and I'll be like, I'm going to do it like that. That's so smart. Like, you're so right. I should do it this way. But I still might not do it. Because at the end of the day, it's me. It's like I'm just listening out. I'm listening to all the loud, and then I'm like not listening to myself. And then I try to listen to myself, and it's like, I don't even know what do you want? Can you just speak up? Self, what is it that you want? Just say it. Just say the thing. And then I say a thing, and the thing is that thing is not really the thing. It's not that what we say is different to what we do, which is an absolute true human like flaw. Not that it's an actual flaw, but an inconsistency. It's not just that. It's that we don't really even know how to, like, we don't know ourselves. It's not like we're not honest with ourselves. We just don't know. It's not like we're lying to ourselves, but we don't know how to listen, like really listen to ourselves. You know? It's just not a skill that I think that we've built. And I do think it's a skill. I do think it's a skill, and it is such a powerful skill. And I say skill because I think it's something that we can learn, something that we can practice. You know? Like getting better at like feeling out when we're doing something we don't want to do, and we feel like we should do it. When we're being driven by the shoulds versus like the genuine wants. And that's not to say that you shouldn't be driven by shoulds. Shouldn't be driven by shoulds. It's just so that it's just good to know. It's just plain good to know. I was watching, do you watch Red Table Talk? Please say yes so we can be Red Table Talk buddies. I was watching it on the weekend. And if you don't know, it is a Facebook watch show, and it's got Jada Pinkett Smith, Will Smith's wife, her mom, Gammy, and daughter, Willow Smith, and they sit around a table and they talk about, they've had a whole bunch of guests, and there's some nuances to the whole setup, but it's such a good show. And they talk about things that you don't otherwise talk about, like things that don't often manifest organically in conversation. They just bring them to this red table. And they were talking about, I think they were just talking, like they had a counselor, Will Smith and Jada Pinkett Smith's personal counselor on there, and they brought in videoed in some audience members who had questions for this woman. And one of the stories was this guy, he felt like he was crushed because he'd been in a relationship with someone, and it was like a 14-month relationship, I think, and then just found out, I think through social, like incidentally, he found out that for the past 9 months, this guy had been dating a whole bunch of other people. So what he thought was an exclusive relationship was not, and he was gutted. And one of the questions that came up when the counselor was sort of like talking him through how to navigate that, and, just like he was kind of in the thick of the feelings. So one of the things that came up was, how do you trust yourself after something like that? How do you trust yourself when you make a decision? And this is something that we can see pretty clearly in a relationship. You make a decision to be with someone, and that person is like not the right person. And either it's kind of a surprise to you in his case, or kind of just like, this was a long happening surprise for him. And it just made him like completely question himself. How can I trust myself? I had such poor judgment of character. And she said, this counselor, she said, like, this is the best thing about counselors, because they will say the thing that you're like, oh, how's she going to answer this way? And you see that you're like, we are always thinking right brain. Very rarely are we thinking with our left brain. We're always kind of going into fix. And what she said is that actually, it's not possible to deceive ourselves. Like we don't, that's a myth. You don't need to trust yourself. You knew. We are never like actually in like complete unawares. It's just not true. And isn't that so true? Like I have been in countless situations in relationships in my own life where it's like there are always the signs. Something always doesn't feel right. And in his case, this guy's case, he even acknowledged it, and he was like, yeah, like it's true. And that, he saw the signs, but he just dismissed them because he was like, I want to marry this guy. And we do that in every part of our life. We ignore the signs. We just ignore them. And we negotiate with them. And we are louder than them and more convincing and compelling. And it's not that they're not there. We just don't want to listen always, It's not that we're lying to ourselves. We just aren't always paying attention. And we got to get better at that. We got to get better at paying attention. We just got to tune in more. So that's what I took my break for. That's what I was trying to do. And it was great and it was glorious. And I actually felt like I had days where I wasn't even thinking about work. I had honest space. And then today, Monday, January 4th, I'm back here like in the same, like I'm all the way down at the bottom of this sine curve again. Like what happened? And I think what I'm realizing is that it's not that I have to write it out. It's not that, well, here's my pattern. I mean, it's good to know your pattern. Like I will fluctuate, all the time. Top of the sine curve, very rarely am I like in the middle. Often I'm like also at the bottom of the wave, and that's the existential crisis. But it's not so much that just knowing the pattern. It's like there has to be this other quality, I think. That because you know the pattern, you know that it's okay. You're not like sitting on the bottom of this hill, looking up at the hill being like, oh God, how can I do it? How can I get up there? You're not, because you will. You'll get up there. It is just like, it's just part of the process. And so then when you realize that it's part of the process, you can start to do things to like accelerate the process. And this is something I've been toying with, and it's really difficult for me to like fully lean into, but it's this idea of like, make yourself feel better. I don't like doing it. There's so much resistance to feeling better when I'm feeling down. Do you have that too? Like, I just don't want to feel better. It's easier for me to like, let me just sit at the bottom of this hill and whine about it. And it's justified, and I will have all the reasons and I have every, like, the story to stay that is compelling, to stay at the bottom of this sine wave, And I can make myself feel better. I can. But man, it's hard to do. I mean, no, it's not hard to do. It's hard to want to do, because there is a security and a safety and a like, you kind of get to be stagnant if you're sad, right? Like it justifies the fact that I haven't done X. I haven't achieved, quote unquote. But that's also part of like paying attention, right? It's also part of just really being honest. Like, I don't want to stay here. I actually don't want to be down. It is uncomfortable, and I actually have to step out of myself to pull myself up from like this floor. Or even being honest that like there's some comfort here, maybe I just want to sulk for like a little bit. I mean, that's okay. But a lot of it is like, at least for me, it's this, and maybe you can relate too. It's like this game I play with myself. Like I really want the success, and I'm terrified that I can't do the thing. And so when I am on the bottom of this, when I'm feeling down in the dumps, like it's just easier to feel sad than to do. It's easier to feel sad than to do something scary. And sometimes the sad is not, it's not that it's not real. It's not that I'm like just trying to take the shortcut. It's just that the anxiety of doing something that stretches you mentally, emotionally, psychologically, physically, the psychology of that is no joke. Like this amount of, it's just not the psychology of it, the anxiety of it is, it's just not small. Like we hate anxiety. We will do everything we can to get out of it. And as much as we want what's on the other side of the anxiety, but you got to go through the anxiety, right? Like climbing up that hill is anxiety. It's like managing the anxiety. Oh, humans, we are a complicated bunch. I decided I'm going to do these episodes again. Far more freeform. It's super helpful for me. Hopefully helpful for you too. Let me know. We can I'm curious to hear what you think. But I'm going to do these every so often. I'm not going to pin a date or frequency to it yet. Let's see how it goes. But in my freelancing world, I have the customer researcher hat, right? So that's all doing customer research for companies. And that's cool, and it's something that I've done for many years, and that's fine. But there's this counselor hat of mine, and the more introspective and camp chair counselor person that wants to come out. So I thought I would dive back into these. They're going to have a slightly different flavor. I think the last ones are more storytelling, and I felt like I gave myself less freedom. These are rants. These are messy musings, actual messy musing rants. And they will reflect on, I don't know, whatever's happening in, selfishly, my life. And maybe yours too. If you feel like chatting, reach out. I don't know. I might put these, I'll keep putting them, I think, on podcast platforms, maybe on the YouTubes as well. I don't know. Right now I'm just kind of leaning into I had a feeling that I wanted to do this, so I thought I would do it and not plan and think about anything else around it, because as soon as I started to do that, I would stall and hesitate and feel like I need to figure out all of those things before I do it, and then feel intimidated about doing this. So I just kind of scrapped that. So here I am, planless and doing the thing. The fun thing. This was a ton of fun. I've missed you guys. But if you don't know who I am and who this voice is, I am Hannah. I am a customer researcher and a counselor. And these are my messy musings from the entrepreneurial, creating, figuring life out in real time. I hope you'll come with me on this journey to, I don't know where yet, but wherever it is, we're going.